Welcome back, everybody. Today we're doing a deep dive into something that I think you all really care about,
Yeah,
the state of coral reefs around the world.
absolutely.
So we've got some fascinating research and some firsthand accounts to kind of unpack,
Yeah.
and I have a feeling that you're going to find this really eye-opening.
Yeah, it's not just about pretty pictures anymore. We're talking about survival, of entire ecosystems and the livelihoods of millions of people.
Right.
You probably already know this, but record-breaking sea surface temperatures are
Mhm.
causing like a global coral bleaching event,
Yeah.
the fourth of its kind.
The NOAA put out a statement about it back in March, and it just seemed to keep getting worse,
Yeah,
right?
March 2023.
For those who need a reminder, NOAA is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration.
Right.
They're the folks that keep tabs on our oceans.
Exactly, and they're not sugarcoating it.
Right.
What's really alarming is that this isn't just a few bleached patches here and there.
Yeah.
We're talking about entire reefs turning like ghostly white. And it's happening all over the world, from the Great Barrier Reef to the Caribbean.
I'm guessing this isn't the first time that we've seen coral bleaching, but something about this current event just feels different,
Yeah.
almost like a tipping point.
You're right to be concerned. This current bleaching event is unprecedented in its scale and severity.
Yeah.
What's especially worrying is that many reefs were just starting to recover from previous bleaching events.
Right.
And this relentless assault by rising temperatures is just not giving them enough time to bounce back.
Okay. I know we've talked about coral bleaching before on this show,
Right?
but could you give us like a quick refresher on what's happening at the microscopic level?
Sure.
I think sometimes people hear bleaching and they just think that it's like a color change,
Right.
but it's way more serious than that.
Absolutely.
Right.
You see, coral reefs aren't just rocks.
Yeah.
They're actually colonies of tiny animals called polyps.
Oh,
And these polyps have a very special partnership with microscopic algae
uh-huh.
that live inside their tissues.
Like little roommates helping each other out.
Exactly. The algae provide food for the coral through photosynthesis,
Right.
giving them energy to grow and build their skeletons.
All right.
And in return, the coral gives the algae a safe place to live and all the nutrients that they need.
Makes sense.
It's a perfect balance, but when the water gets too warm, this partnership just falls apart.
So the heat stresses out the algae, and they start producing harmful chemicals instead of food.
Precisely. It's like the algae are saying, hey, it's getting too hot in here. I can't make food anymore, and I'm starting to feel sick.
Oh, no.
So the coral, in a desperate attempt to save itself, expels the algae.
But isn't getting rid of the algae kind of a risky move for the coral? I mean, that was their main food source.
It's a gamble.
Right.
Without the algae, the coral loses its vibrant color and its primary source of energy.
Right.
If the water cools down quickly, the algae can return and the coral can recover.
Mm-hmm.
But if the heat persists, the coral essentially starves to death, leaving behind just a white skeleton.
So it's like they're evicting their roommates, but then they realize that they can't actually afford the rent on their own.
That is a great analogy.
Yeah.
And the problem is that this isn't just affecting a few individual corals.
Right.
We're talking about entire reef ecosystems collapsing.
Yeah.
Remember, coral reefs support a quarter of all marine life.
It's hard to wrap your head around that.
They're like underwater cities teeming with fish invertebrates and all sorts of fascinating creatures.
Yeah, it's like losing entire neighborhoods, not just individual houses.
Exactly.
And it's not just the marine life that suffers. You mentioned before that coral reefs also provide economic benefit.
Huge economic benefits.
Yeah,
for humans. Right. Absolutely. Coral reefs protect coastlines from erosion and storm damage, which is especially important now with rising sea levels.
Of course.
They support tourism and fisheries,
Right.
providing food and livelihoods for millions of people.
Yeah.
Think about the impact on a place like Indonesia, where coastal communities rely heavily on healthy reefs for their income and food security.
Mm-hmm. So we're talking about like a ripple effect that goes way beyond the ocean.
Absolutely a global issue.
It's easy to get caught up in the doom and gloom,
Yeah.
but I know there are scientists out there working tirelessly to try to find solutions.
Yeah.
So
Despite the dire situation, there are pockets of hope emerging.
that's good.
Scientists are working on some really innovative approaches to help coral reefs not just survive, but even thrive in these challenging times.
This is where it gets really interesting. What are some of the strategies they're using?
Well, one approach is creating what you might call coral hospitals,
Uh-huh.
nurseries where scientists can cultivate and care for damaged corals in a controlled environment.
So they're essentially giving these corals a fighting chance to recover away from the stress of the open ocean.
Precisely.
Can you tell us a little more about how that works?
Yeah, imagine underwater farms where scientists are tending to these delicate coral fragments,
Wow,
nurturing them back to health and helping them grow stronger.
that's amazing.
They control the water temperature, the light, the nutrients, creating ideal conditions for these corals to thrive.
So it's like intensive care for coral.
Exactly.
And once they're healthy enough, they're replanted back onto the reef.
Exactly. And the results have been incredibly encouraging. A study published in PLOS One found that corals grown in these nurseries were actually more resistant to heat stress than their wild counterparts.
Wow, so it's like they've been given like a superpower
Yeah,
to withstand the changing conditions.
exactly.
That's incredibly promising. Are there any other innovative approaches that have caught your eye?
There's another really interesting project using sea urchins,
Oh,
those spiky little creatures you often see on the reef.
yeah.
It turns out they're actually crucial for coral health
Okay.
because they graze on algae that can smother and kill coral.
Oh, so they're like the lawnmowers of the reef.
Exactly, keeping things tidy so the coral can breathe.
I like that.
But in many areas, sea urchin populations have declined
Right.
due to overfishing and disease. So scientists are now creating artificial habitats
Interesting.
to help boost their numbers.
Wow.
Imagine building tiny urchin apartments right on the reef.
That's brilliant. Are these urchin apartments working?
Early results are very positive.
Good.
In areas with these urchin apartments, we're seeing a significant reduction in harmful algae,
Okay.
allowing the coral to regrow and reclaim its space.
So it's all about restoring that natural balance,
Exactly.
giving the coral a fighting chance.
Right.
What else are scientists exploring?
Well, this one might sound a bit like science fiction,
Okay.
but researchers are actually working on creating supercorals.
Super corals. What does that even mean? Are they like genetically modified corals?
Not quite genetically modified, but you're on the right track.
Okay.
The idea is to selectively breed corals that are naturally more tolerant to heat stress.
Okay.
They're essentially taking corals from warmer waters where they've already adapted to higher temperatures
Right.
and crossbreeding them with corals from cooler regions.
So they're trying to create a hybrid coral that can handle the heat.
Exactly like creating a supercoral.
That's incredible.
It's a bold and innovative approach.
Yeah.
Imagine a future where coral reefs are populated by these supercorals capable of withstanding the rising temperatures of our oceans.
Wow.
It's a glimmer of hope in the face of a very real threat.
But I imagine there are challenges with these supercorals.
Of course.
Right? Like, could they potentially outcompete native species or disrupt the delicate balance?
That's a very important question, and scientists are carefully studying the potential risks
Of course.
before releasing these supercorals into the wild.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that any intervention doesn't create unintended consequences.
Right. Like, we don't want to solve one problem and create a whole new one.
Exactly. It's a delicate dance between innovation and responsibility.
I'm curious to know more about the challenges these scientists are facing in their efforts to save coral reefs.
Well, one of the biggest hurdles is simply the sheer scale of the problem. Coral reefs are vast ecosystems, and the damage is widespread.
Right.
These innovative approaches, while promising,
Yeah.
are still relatively small-scale and expensive.
Makes sense.
Scaling them up to a level that can truly make a difference on a global scale is a huge challenge.
So it's like we're racing against time.
We are.
Can these efforts really keep pace with the rapid decline of reefs due to climate change?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's one we'll delve into more deeply in just a moment. But first, I think it's crucial to address the elephant in the room, climate change itself, because as long as we keep pumping greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, the future of coral reefs, and indeed the health of our entire planet, remains uncertain.
Okay, I'm ready to tackle that elephant. Let's talk about what needs to happen on a larger scale to address the root cause of this whole crisis.
Absolutely. We'll explore that right after a quick break. Stay tuned.
All right, so we talked about the science behind coral bleaching and some of the incredible innovations happening right now to protect these vital ecosystems.
Yeah.
But I think we all know the real elephant in the room is climate change.
Exactly. We can treat the symptoms, but as long as the planet keeps warming, coral reefs are going to continue to face an uphill battle.
Yeah, it feels almost overwhelming sometimes. I mean, what can one person really do to combat like a global crisis like climate change?
That's a common feeling, but it's important to remember that individual actions, when multiplied by millions, can have a huge impact.
Right.
Think of it like this. If you were trying to fill a bucket with water,
Yeah.
every drop counts, right?
Okay, that makes sense. So where do we start? What are some tangible things our listeners can do to make a difference?
Well, first and foremost, reducing your carbon footprint is key. That means looking at how you consume energy at home, how you get around, and the choices you make as a consumer.
So things like Using energy-efficient appliances, driving less, and maybe choosing to walk, bike, or take public transport more often.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of collective action support policies that promote renewable energy and sustainable practices. Talk to your friends and family about climate change. The more people who are aware and engaged, the more pressure we can put on our leaders to take meaningful action.
Yeah, it's about raising our voices and making our choices count.
Absolutely.
Right. But what about those of us who want to do more than just change our light bulbs? Are there ways to directly support coral reef conservation efforts?
Absolutely. There are so many incredible organizations doing amazing work on the ground, or should I say in the water.
Right.
Groups like the Coral Reef Alliance and the Ocean Conservancy are leading the charge in research restoration and advocacy.
So we can donate to these organizations or even volunteer our time.
Exactly. You can even become a citizen scientist and help collect data on coral reefs.
Oh, wow.
There are programs where you can participate in reef monitoring, track coral health, and contribute to valuable research.
That's really cool. I love the idea of being a part of the solution, even from afar.
Yeah.
What about when we travel? We all love a good tropical vacation.
Right.
But can we enjoy those beautiful beaches and reefs responsibly?
Absolutely. Tourism plays a huge role in the health of coral reefs. Choosing eco-friendly tour operators is a great start look for operators who prioritize sustainable practices like using mooring buoys instead of anchors, which can damage the reef.
That makes sense. And what about those amazing underwater photos we all love to take? Any tips for responsible snorkeling and diving?
The golden rule is look but don't touch.
Right.
Coral is incredibly fragile, and even a slight touch can damage these delicate animals. Practice your buoyancy control to avoid accidental contact and be mindful of your fins.
Right. No kicking up sediment or stirring up the bottom.
Exactly.
What about sunscreen? I've heard that some sunscreens can actually be harmful to coral.
That's true. Some chemicals commonly found in sunscreens can bleach coral and disrupt their reproductive cycle. So opt for reef-safe sunscreens that use mineral-based ingredients like zinc oxide or titanium dioxide. They're just as effective at protecting your skin without harming the reef.
Great tip. So being a responsible tourist really can make a difference. What are some other unexpected things listeners might not realize they can do to help?
You might be surprised to learn that even your diet can have an impact on coral reefs.
Really?
Choosing sustainable seafood is crucial. Overfishing can disrupt the delicate balance of the reef ecosystem.
Okay.
So look for seafood that's been caught or farmed responsibly.
So we can actually vote with our wallets
Absolutely.
and support businesses that are doing the right thing.
By choosing sustainable products and supporting eco-conscious businesses, you're sending a powerful message to the market.
It sounds like there's a lot we can do both individually and collectively, but
Yeah.
I keep coming back to this question.
Yeah.
Are these efforts enough? Can we truly save coral reefs in the face of climate change?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it? The reality is that even with all these amazing innovations and the best intentions, the future of coral reefs remains uncertain.
Yeah.
Climate change is a formidable force, and it's already having a devastating impact.
So it's like we're trying to bail out a sinking ship, but the hole just keeps getting bigger.
It's a powerful analogy, and it highlights the urgency of the situation. We need to be realistic about the challenges we face, but also hopeful that our actions can make a difference.
Okay, I'm feeling a mix of hope and despair here.
Mm-hmm.
What's the takeaway for our listeners? What should they be thinking about after this deep dive?
I want our listeners to walk away with a sense of agency, not despair. Yes, the situation is serious, but it's not hopeless. Every action we take, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. It's a vote for a healthier planet, a vote for the future of coral reefs, and a vote for our own future.
So what does this all mean? What's the key message we want to leave our listeners with?
The message is this: we are not powerless in the face of this crisis. We have the knowledge, the technology, and the collective will to make a difference by understanding the problem, making conscious choices, and supporting those working tirelessly to find solutions. We can help ensure that these underwater wonders continue to inspire and amaze us for generations to come.
That's a powerful message of hope. We can be a part of the solution.
And that leads us to a fascinating question. We know what we can do to protect existing reefs, but what about creating new ones? Could artificial reefs be a viable solution to habitat loss? We'll explore that intriguing possibility after a quick break. Stay with us.
We're back, and I'm really intrigued by this idea of artificial reefs.
Yeah.
Is it really possible to create new reefs from scratch?
It's a fascinating concept and
Yeah.
one that's gaining a lot of traction.
Okay.
As we grapple with the loss of natural reefs, you see, artificial reefs can be created using a variety of materials,
Oh,
from sunken ships and concrete structures to specially designed reef balls
interesting.
made from eco-friendly
So we're
materials.
basically giving nature a little nudge,
Exactly.
providing a foundation for coral polyps to attach to and start building a new home.
Precisely. And the beauty of artificial reefs is that they can serve multiple purposes. They can provide habitat for fish and other marine life, protect coastlines from erosion, and even create new dive sites
Right.
and recreational opportunities.
It sounds like a win-win-win.
Yeah.
Are there any downsides or challenges with creating artificial reefs?
Well, one of the key challenges is placement.
Okay.
Artificial reefs need to be carefully sited to avoid interfering with existing habitats or navigation channels.
Right.
They also need to be constructed from materials that are both durable and environmentally sound.
Of course, we don't want to create a new problem while trying to solve another one.
Exactly.
What are some examples of successful artificial reef projects?
There have been some remarkable projects around the world.
Like,
Off the coast of Florida, for example, they've created artificial reefs using retired subway cars.
wow.
And these structures are now teeming with marine life.
That's so cool.
In other places, they're using specially designed 3D printed structures
Oh, wow.
that mimic the complex architecture of natural reefs.
That's incredible. It sounds like there's a lot of creativity and innovation happening in this field.
There is.
But I'm curious, can artificial reefs truly replace the complex ecosystems of natural reefs?
That's a great question, and the answer is not entirely.
Okay.
While artificial reefs can provide valuable habitat and ecological benefits,
Yeah.
they don't fully replicate the intricate biodiversity and ecological functions of natural reefs,
Of course.
which have evolved over thousands of years.
So it's more about supplementing and supporting existing reefs rather than replacing them altogether.
Exactly. Artificial reefs should be seen as one tool in our conservation toolbox,
Right.
not a silver bullet solution.
Makes sense.
We still need to address the root causes of reef decline,
Yeah.
like climate change and pollution.
So it all circles back to those individual actions we talked about earlier.
It does.
Even if we can't all build artificial reefs in our backyards,
Right.
we can all make choices that support a healthier planet.
Absolutely. Every choice we make, from the seafood we eat to the products we buy, has an impact.
It really does.
By being conscious consumers, supporting sustainable businesses, and advocating for policies that protect our oceans,
Right.
we can all be part of the solution.
I think that's a great point to end on. It's not about feeling powerless in the face of these challenges, but about recognizing the power we each have to make a difference.
You put it perfectly. It's about hope, action, and collective responsibility.
So listeners, there you have it. We've explored the crisis facing coral reefs, the incredible science fighting to save them, and the role we can all play in ensuring their future.
Yeah.
What are your takeaways from this deep dive? What will you do differently tomorrow?
The future of these underwater wonders is in our hands. Let's choose to be the generation that protects them, not the one that lets them disappear.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep diving deep.